What's going on, guys? This is Kalen Hurley, the host of the Vegas Golden Knight podcast, All the Glitters. Let's start the show. If you've seen the new shirt, older shirt, Tyler Cash on X, shout out, thank you very much. Hand delivered this one. My other one got a little weird thing with the sleeves, so I cut it off, the sleeves at least, and then, I don't know, I needed an improved version. Vegas hockey versus everybody. It kind of feels like that sometimes. No matter who, what, when, where, why, we always have a little bit of hate, and that's okay because we carry a chip on our shoulder pretty well, and I think we've done pretty damn good in our short but successful history. It is Father's Day night. The kids, the wife, they all went to bed, so I'm coming out to you to record. But first and foremost, shout out all the dads. It is your day today. And it's the coolest, most fulfilling, but hardest and challenging. And it's just the best job I've ever had. So if you're a dad out there, just today's your day. Pat yourself on the back. And you know what? If no one said it today, thank you very much for everything you do. I was very blessed and still am blessed to have an amazing man in my life, my stepdad, Bill. Thank you for being you, and I love you very much. All the dads, again, much love. You don't know what you mean to your family, so and if you do, you're very lucky. And yeah, and honestly, at least I feel this way. I'm the thankful one. I'm so thankful to be in the position I'm in. So today was very cool. Always fun to get the extra admiration, but I didn't need it. I live it every day. So yeah, I feel very spoiled, and I feel very gracious that I get to come and talk to you guys tonight. So all right, let's get into hockey. Last night, Florida went into Edmonton and played a hell of a road game. 5-2 victory. I said it when they tied the series. I feel like that was Edmonton's push. And from what I saw last night, I was right. And again, I'm not saying like, told you so. All I'm saying is the tying game, game 4, was everything Edmonton can do to come back in that game. They pull Skinner, they get the jump, having Pickard in. They go, they tie it up in the second, they take over. They end up getting tied again, and then they take it over in overtime, and they get the W and the series tie. Let's go. They have home ice advantage again. Yada, yada, yada. We know the story. Well, all that was great. Game 5, they go back to Pickard and didn't do what it did when he came out in game 4. I'm not saying he played a bad game, and we'll get into what I think needs to happen for game 6. If Edmonton, and again, remember, I have Cats in 6, so if Edmonton does take this to 7, this is what I think needs to go. But, I mean, it's hard to say it enough, but Brad Marchand, is he the best deadline acquisition this offseason? I mean, unbelievable. 2 goals. His second goal, the way he windmilled around Wallman and then just put it in, oh my God. It was a highlight reel goal. If that happened at the beginning of the season, it'd still be one of the top 10 goals of the year. But that happened when it happened. That might be, as far as high stakes skill and just how beautiful the goal was, that might be in the top 5 of the year right there, at least in my opinion. And then you have Sam Bennett again scoring. Between Marchand and Bennett, it's going to be a really tough to say who's going to get that Conn Smythe. It depends on what the Riders are holding valuable. If they're going to hold this series valuable, Marchand might get it. But ever since he's came over from Florida, he's looked unbelievable. He's turned back that dial of Father Time. And, man, he is doing well for himself for this offseason. He is going to get a bag of money. And you know what? At the end of your career, if you want better weather, and I think he's coming out west. I don't know if Vegas can't afford him and another big acquisition, so we'll see. But man, do you give that guy 5 years at 37? No, you probably give him 2 years, 7.5, 8 million, something crazy. But it won't be crazy if he continues to play like that. I'll tell you what. Connor McDavid finally scored in this series. Yeah, he's doing everything he possibly can to keep his team in it, but I don't think they have the push. I think their push came to tie it up in game 4, and if they're going to push this to game 7, they need to do a lot of things. They need to stay out of the penalty box first and foremost, but they also need to play to their strengths, which is high-flying offense. They need to jam it down their throat, chip and chase, and get into there. Connor McDavid is a very special player. Leon Draisaitl is a very special player. And they lose some of that grit when Hyman goes down in the series. So they need to – yes, they have good depth right now. Yes, they have two of the best players in the universe, or the two best players in the universe. But what they need to do is – highlight those two. They probably should be playing on the same line the entire game, and you just do the McDraisaitl line and you play them 30 minutes and you just hope to God that they could put up enough goals early and then just hold it off and maybe choke out Florida. That's so much easier said than done. Bob looks unbelievable. Their defense is stingy. Their forwards are pestry. Their forecheck is unreal. Their back check is great. It's just, this may be one of the most perfect teams we've seen in a long time. And, obviously they've been to 3 cup finals now, and they have a stranglehold on the series. They might win their second one in a row on Tuesday. We'll see. As far as who I think needs to start in goal, if you want to, in my opinion, if Edmonton wants to look at Stuart Skinner as their clear-cut number 1. Because let's be very, very honest. Calvin Pickard is not a number 1 goaltender in the league. He is a very good backup in the league. Stuart Skinner has potential to be the number 1. He is probably best suited in a 1A, 1B situation. And I don't think Pickard is good enough to be that 1B. Which is why, in my opinion, in maybe go a little bit off on a tangent here, if Edmonton doesn't try to acquire John Gibson somehow in this offseason, they may have the most accidentally incompetent front office. You just can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and wasting Draisaitl and McDavid's prime years in hopes that it's going to get better. You're very obviously equipped to have a very good regular season in a very good playoff run. But if you're not equipped to get up and over the hump, things fundamentally have got to change. You have a $9.5 million defenseman who is not a very good defenseman in Darnell Nurse. You have, I don't know what Stuart Skinner gets paid, but it's probably on brand of what he should get paid. If not, he's probably getting paid too much. I don't know what his AAV is. I'm going to just say $5 million or around there. And I'm not going to look it up. I'll look it up after this and just go attaboy, Kalen, or oops, way off. But if you want him to continue to be your number 1 goaltender and you think that, then he needs to start game 6. It was pretty obvious that Pickard wasn't the answer for game 5. Or even if he was, it didn't matter because Florida was going to win that game no matter what. So, in my opinion, you go back to Skinner, and then you just hope that you play the exact same road game that Florida just played. I just don't see it happening. I see it being it could be close. I mean, if Edmonton's going to get in there, I think it's probably going to be another overtime game. But and they have the ability to blow the doors off Florida. And, I mean, they did it last year with an 8-1, but it's just not happening. I don't think that they're going to be able to drag them back to Edmonton um, for Game 7. I think we see rats and confetti and pyrotechnics and Brad Marchand potentially holding the Conn Smythe Trophy. In the beginning of the series, I thought Sam Bennett was a runaway. And I think that if Marchand has another multi-goal game and the goals are that influential in the outcome, I think that Brad Marchand will be your Conn Smythe, which, I mean, when you're coming to the back half of your career and you could see the horizon, I think that there's something really cool and beautiful and almost poetic about it. And so not only do I think if he has a multi-goal game, he deserves it, but I also think that that's kind of in my heart what I want to see. I think I want to see Brad Marchand. He's not going to leave the game next year, but I want to see him at least in his last couple of years have that moment. And who knows? He may do what he's done his whole career and take another team-friendly deal, stay in Florida, and maybe chase another cup. It doesn't look like they're stopping. Where you saw Tampa when they went to their 3 straight, you kind of saw the exhaustion set in early in that next year after their last cup final, and that you kind of saw those slower steps. I just don't think you see it with Florida. All of their players are the same players. And if they weren't before, your Seth Joneses and your Brad Marchands, although Brad Marchand was a lot more equipped to play like Florida plays already, they go in through this Florida machine, they come out of the locker room, and then they're all identical. It's like Paul Maurice has just stamped and made every player internally the same thing. It's like, we will forecheck hard, we will back check hard, we will get under your skin, we will score, we will push this thing north to south, and we will hurt you at any chance we get in the process. And I don't mean hurt illegally, I don't mean hurt dirty, I mean they are going to make their presence felt between the whistles, sometimes outside in a scrum, but they're going to make their presence felt literally every shift. And at the end of every shift, somebody's noticeable on the ice. It's just how they play. And as shitty as it is for me watching the postseason and not having Vegas in it, it's pretty cool to see such high-level hockey played. Even if at times it's a lot more one-sided than it is. And you could sit there and be a poor sport and a sore loser and be like, oh man, if Vegas was playing Florida, I just don't think it matters who Florida plays right now this year. Maybe next year's different. Maybe it finally does catch up to them, and that fourth year is the year that everyone's like, whew, man, my back hurts. Maybe we take this down a notch. But for right now, it's all systems go, and it's Florida's game, and everyone else is chasing it. So, the prediction stands, and I think it looks better now more than ever. It's Florida in 6, and are we going to see confetti on the ice? We'll see. We'll see about that. Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts has more. It's every day is different, and it's funny with the whole Mitch Marner situation. Who's going to win the sweepstakes? You have teams like Carolina saying they're prepared to throw $14 or more million per year at him. I just don't see a world where, obviously there's other factors. His wife was pregnant, and it's his hometown team, and he earned the right to have that no movement clause, obviously, and Toronto signed it and didn't move him before it took into effect. So he didn't have to leave, but he did block that trade that would have sent Mikko Rantanen to Toronto and him to Carolina. I don't know if it's not necessarily a fit. I just think that for some reason, if you're not already like in that ethos of being a superstar in Carolina, it just seems like they're not attracting these talents. Like obviously Mikko Rantanen seemed like, from what he said afterwards, was pretty blindsided by the trade initially. And then immediately he started playing road games. He didn't play his first game in Carolina till like maybe his fifth game on the team. And so he never quite got acclimated to the culture. Um, and then that played a part in everything. And when he, didn't want to sign a long-term deal, they traded him. I think they learned their lesson from the year prior. They acquired Jake Gensel, and then they lose him in the offseason for nothing. And it's like, man, they just threw out assets to get Jake Gensel. And then now what's going on? They got some stuff in that trade. You get Logan Stakehoven, but you lose Netchis. You lost out on Gensel the year prior. Now you don't have Rantanen. And I don't know if players right now are gun shy about that. But then also you see a team that gets really close, but they don't get over the hump either. And I think if Marner's going to sign with a team, obviously once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And he has bet on his core four forward group in Toronto year after year after year that they were going to get it done, and they did not. But I think when you're Marner, you have to look at teams like LA, like Vegas, who have won some series. Although last 4 years, LA has been one and done. Unfortunately for them, they keep getting Edmonton. But, I think you go to a place where the lights aren't as bright and you don't have to be the man. And I alluded to that in one of my first podcasts too. It's just like LA makes sense. He's not the only superstar there. And you're not the only superstar in Carolina either. I just think staying on the East Coast, and you're going to be playing Toronto, why don't you do a whole 180 and move? And that's probably because I would like to see Mitch Marner in a Vegas Golden Knight uniform. But Anaheim says that they're in and they're willing to throw a ton of money at him. And Vegas can't match that monetarily. We can match that with, success. How much does success and being a tax-free state hold in the balance of weight? Does that take $1.5 million off a $14 million contract? Does that get him signed for 12.5? Does that get him signed for 13? Is that allure of success $1 million with being a tax-free state? Is playing next to another elite wing or centerman like Jack Eichel, is that $500,000 he's willing to take a pay cut with? You have all these different contributing factors with a team like Vegas and a team like LA. And I think Vegas and the way Bruce Cassidy plays and how he really holds the defensive side of the puck in high regard, and how already Mitch Marner holds that part of his game in such a high regard. I think that's just the Cinderella shoe fit. But again, everybody in the league other than Toronto can make a case for having Mitch Marner on the team. And honestly, they can make a case for having him on the team too. Unfortunately, that relationship seems to be damaged beyond repair. And, he's put out, or at least his camp has put out, that maybe he wants to sign a $4 million or a 4-year deal rather than a max 7 or 8 million, or geez, I keep saying million, 8 or 7 year deal. Obviously he's only getting 8 in a sign and trade, but maybe he wants to try that. Hey, I might take a jump that I'm getting paid now, but I might try to take something a little less for a couple of years, let that cap shoot. Is the situation I'm in continuing to work? Like, say he signs in Vegas for 3 years. Say he signs at 12 million per. You look again in 3 years. All right, I've had success. Maybe he has hardware at that point. Maybe he's won a cup. That would be ideal for Vegas fans. That would be ideal for Mitch Marner. That'd be ideal for Jack Eichel and his extension. Maybe Jack Eichel extends to 7. He looks around, says, okay, I think with me and Jack, we could be the future. We can get another championship. We can get X, Y, and Z. Maybe he goes and says, screw it, I'm in. And then signs a big deal after that. He's still a young man. So he's got another, even if he took a bridge deal, he's got another big contract in his repertoire and in his system. You're betting on yourself at that point. And I think if he signs a small deal and then goes to the playoffs and produces like he has not in the past, but I think that has potential to do, I think he's done nothing but the correct thing for him and his family and setting himself up for life. I think that would be awesome. You root for guys. Like I've said, like I root for Jack Eichel, not because he's on my team, but just because like he's that like, I wouldn't consider the second overall pick an underdog in any case, but like when you talk about top 10 forwards in the league, some people throw Eichel in the mix and a lot of people don't. When you talk about top 10 centers in the league, he's just barely cracking into that with the rest of the fan bases. When you talk about two-way games and Selke nominations, he's getting nominated, but he's not getting in that real. I mean, Barkov seems to be the new Bergeron. It's like he walked around and he had this giant chip on his shoulder used to his advantage, and now he's a Stanley Cup champion. Mitch Marner, to me, is very similar to that, where he went to a situation, he played for a team, he played for his childhood team from Toronto. Dude could not have, unless he was the game-winning goal in overtime, game 7, and to win a Stanley Cup, like, that's about as storybook as you could be. You get drafted to your hometown team, you become a superstar, and you know what? Unfortunately for him, his story there ends with mediocrity. You look at a guy who leaves that situation, and the way some of the fans, go after him, and you're like, man, I just really want to. First off, I want to hug the guy. I'm like, dude, it gets better. I promise you. Wherever you go is going to be better than where you were. But I think that wherever he does go, he could use that chip to his advantage. And I also think that when you don't have to be the guy, that's when you emerge as the guy. So we'll see what happens. Very non-reputable sources are saying that Marchand would want to come back to Vegas. I alluded to it again. I don't think he would come back, not because he wouldn't want to and not because Vegas fans wouldn't love him. And honestly, I bet Bruce at this point would love him too. I just think that out the door, you did a lot of chatter. And maybe the front office feels a type of way about that. They've made it known very, very clearly that they're a no-nonsense team. Stories of going into work and your key card not opening up the gate, and stories of players getting traded or sent to another team on their birthday. And they didn't do anything. And I'm not saying Jonathan Marchand did anything. I mean, all he did was take a community and a team and make everyone fall in love with them, win a Conn Smythe and a Stanley Cup, and, ride off after that into the sunset. So, but he was very loud about not getting re-signed. And he felt the type of way, and good on him. He earned that right, but I just don't see a world where he comes back. I would welcome him with open arms. If we could sign him, if we could make a trade that, let's say, sends Nick Waugh because they do need to get younger in Nashville. Say you send Nick Waugh to Nashville for Jonathan Marchand with $1 million retained. So we're getting him for $4.5 million for the rest of his contract, whatever. Then you can re-sign Riley Smith for something low annual, something team friendly, say maybe 2 times 2.5, and you can recreate that misfit line for your third line. Drop Mark Stone down to the second, have Pavel Dorofeyev on the left instead of the right of Hertl, and then you throw Marner up top with Eichel. Man, to me, that sounds unreal. I don't know if the money works. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that every analyst and pundit have said that after they crown the cup here, whether it be Tuesday or if math serves correct, they're probably going to go back on Thursday and play, maybe Friday if they're having that extra day because of the travel. If that's the case, starting this weekend, we could have some electricity coming out of here. And, I don't care if it's Vegas involved. I just want news around the league. This is going to be the best. I mean, let's crown a champion. Let's take a breath. Then let's start having the real fun, because the draft is just around the corner in a couple weeks. And then right after that, we have free agency. In the free agency friendly, I might just take the day off of my day job just so I can just doom scroll and be here with updates and do all that. I think that would be super fun. So, and I by then the studio should be 90% done. So you no more garage or green screen or whatever this is. Real mics. It'll be great. I can't wait. But yeah. So you know what? For me tonight, that's it. I hope that everyone has a next great couple of days. I might go live on an Instagram here too. I might come back. Well, I will come back Tuesday night and let's recap that game, whether or not we're talking about a Stanley Cup champion or we're talking about going to Game 7, which would be sweet too. So let's reconvene Tuesday night. I appreciate your ears. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. If you liked anything I had to say, please click the like button. If you think that anybody that you know would be interested in anything I had to say, please share it with somebody. I encourage you all, if you liked anything or if you've heard this, please subscribe to the channel. It would be amazing. And yeah, besos mi amigos. And as always, go Knights.